everybody? It's Rodelo, Northwest Fishing Reports. I'm here on Potholes Reservoir, arguably the best bass destination in Washington State. Would you say so?
Absolutely.
We're going to do some bass fishing today. We've got special guest Danny Garrett from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Hillary's on the boat. Levi, Rodelo. It's going to be a fun show. Keep watching. So every week is Bass Week here at Potholes, according to Shelby. A lot of great fishing here, but how did Bass Week get started?
We started about 4 years ago, and we decided that we just needed to promote bass fishing more, talk about it more, and there's great opportunities distributed across the state of Washington, and yet a lot of people come here and they think we're just about trout and salmon. So this is a great opportunity just to make people aware of how much bass fishing we have in Washington, and then get beginners a few how-tos on how to get started.
So starting off this morning, these are just basic topwater frogs. This is a popping frog. Sometimes color matters, other times I feel like it doesn't. What you're looking for, this is kind of a main channel here where we're fishing, and you've got current. As the water drops, the water's pulling out of here, so there's current off these edges here. So this little point here, there's a point up here in front of us, and all you're doing, this frog is pretty much weedless. So, I mean, there's no wrong place to throw it. Throw it back there as far as you can, and you're just wanting rod twitches like that. Nothing happens, reel it back in and try it again. My knots are all Palomar when it comes to braid. Palomar knot. You go through your eyelet, so you double it back through. You go to an overhand knot. That loop that was created originally goes around your bait. Pull it tight. Now, one thing I add extra, especially when you're frog fishing, because you set that hook so hard, your tag end here, I'm going to tie an overhand knot as close to the eye and the knot as possible. So that adds as like a little stop. If that braid ever slips at all, it'll hit that knot and cinch down. It's not going to go anywhere.
Shelby, we're not in a bass boat, but we're bass fishing.
It is a great big platform that works fabulous for bass fishing. It is not as fast as a normal bass boat, but nice to have elbow room. We got a pretty good crew here, and works great for bass fishing.
So you don't need a bass boat to get started bass fishing.
Anything you can float in is a bass boat, and
right.
There's kayak fishing's becoming a big thing.
Sure.
Whatever it takes to get on the water.
Later today, we're going to even fish for bass from the shore.
Tons of bass caught from the shore, especially as the water goes down.
Okay.
Lots more opportunities from the shore.
Awesome.
Be the frogs. You're hopping on the weeds and then pausing right outside the weeds, right?
Yep.
Oh no! Was that your frog that you went after?
Oh,
You were way back in there.
right through the weeds.
Oh man.
So one of the things, obviously back in there, it's not hard, it's not easy to do.
Yeah. Well,
if you do get blown up, say out here in the open and he misses that frog, a wacky rig Senko is a good follow-up bait. A wacky rig or Texas rig, whatever you prefer.
Sure.
This one's weighted, some of them are weightless, but say he gets blown up and that frog comes flying back, you pick up a wacky rig Senko, throw it right back in there, and I'd say 9 times out of 10 they're going to come back and grab that Senko.
And that's where you were saying earlier, having multiple rods rigged and ready to go
Absolutely.
is a super handy trick.
Yep. Instead of having to sit down and retie, and sometimes they just don't come back and grab the frog at all. You can keep throwing back in there, but that Senko comes out and they're just on it immediately. It's just a really good backup bait.
I just cannot believe I missed that, man. That was right through the weeds.
Well, if you frog fish, you're gonna miss more than a few.
Okay.
And you're gonna have a few come unbuttoned that are hooked as well. They just It's just the nature of the beast.
Okay.
The more weedless the bait, the more fishless.
Oh.
So
one of the other things I do to help improve that too, on all these frogs, I take my hooks and I will bend them out and up just a little bit to where that still gets hung up somewhat on my fingers, but it's still really weedless. Because a lot of them are so narrow and so tight to the frog that, like Shelby said, you can't get a good hookup. So if you bend them out a little bit, there's a little more room in between the plastic and the hooks to stay pegged.
Oh!
You got him. Good one.
Oh, look at yeah. Wow. What just happened? It was just like that.
That was a topwater blow up on a frog.
Wow. Look at that sucker.
Earlier when I was talking about their back, that color right there is what helps them warm up in those springtime cold waters. Most of the time, when you hold them by the lip, they'll calm down. What I like to do is take my pointer finger, bury it underneath the backside, and then pinch the inside with my thumb. I don't try and torque the jaw like you see on TV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really hard on the fish, and the bigger they are, the more you're pulling on the gills and the jawline. So if you get a bigger fish, if you're taking a picture, it's best to hold them like that. Support that belly and all that weight.
Sure. Right on.
All them big crushers, that's what they killed the crawdads with, them big pads in the back. Send it back.
All right, we got us a bass.
Nice one.
In Bass Week. Woo! Yeah. Did you learn something, Hillary?
I did. I haven't seen a bass on the takedown, and it was really exciting. They really attack that lure. Like it's pretty fun.
You got another one.
Go. There's a little bit better fish.
Where'd you get that one on, Levi?
Another popping frog. This is live target. Kind of one of my go-to colors. Threw up in here off this point of the pencil reeds. He swirled at it 2 times. I just kept twitching it. Swirled at it again, twitched it one more time, and he come up and just clobbered it. And back.
Switch sides with me.
Got him? Got him? Nice.
Oh!
You want a net or you?
No, I don't. Right where you caught the other one. I mean, right where you caught the other one.
Pliers?
Yeah. There you go.
There's a nice one.
You're on the board.
So when a fish is hooked deep like this, I mean, there's a lot of times there's not much you can do. You just try to get him unhooked as fast as possible. Shelby, do you happen to have a Pepsi in the cooler?
The Pepsi?
The carbonation stops the bleeding.
Oh.
So you can come in, you have to be really careful. You can come in from the gills. You just got to be super delicate when you come in from the side like this to get a hold of that hook and get it to pop out. Now, the reason these gills are protected by that hard plate on the side of their mouth is because they're so delicate. So we're going to dump some Pepsi right down his mouth, kind of stop that bleeding. So he's got enough spunk in him, the bleeding stopped. Let him get his energy. There he goes.
So Danny, you were saying you're a pretty avid angler. Not only are you a warm water fish biologist, but you're an avid angler.
Well, it's kind of the main reason I got into fish biology was because I love to fish. And I remember I was in grad school at University of Washington doing genetics, and I was fishing tournaments with my dad out on Washington lakes, and I was thinking to myself, I need to switch interests. So I switched to ecology and started studying the movement of fish. And it was all because of fishing tournaments with my dad that got me into it. So
There's quite a few people at WDFW that are active outdoors people.
yeah, a lot more than people realize. A lot of people that hunt and fish, and you know, that's pretty much what we do, is manage resources, manage fish and wildlife for public consumption. And so it's hard for me to imagine doing this job and not having an appreciation for coming out here and enjoying fishing and hunting.
You mentioned your college. I just have one thing to add. Go Cougs.
My wife graduated from Wazoo. We got a bunch of WSU flags up at home. So
Any UW flags?
I can't be. I went to the UW, but I'm not a Husky fan. I started at University of Idaho, so I'm more of a Vandal.
Boise is not a state.
Josh, you missed one.
Oh, story of my life. That's all right. We can use that as a time to teach. So what had happened was his drag was loose, and when he set that hook, that drag slipped and didn't get a good hook set on him. Wasn't anything he did. He got he set the hook just right. He had him for a little bit, but you got to have your drag locked down, whether you're doing it on a spinning rod or a bait caster. When you're frogging, I keep that drag as tight as can be, and I don't ever loosen it. There's no reason to loosen it when you're frog fishing, because you've got to pull them out of that nasty weeds.
See if I can get him back.
A good learning moment for Josh.
Oh yeah, check the drag before I start casting.
Yeah, check
Learn something
the
new every
drag
day.
before you take the pull from Hillary. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I changed the drag on that.
Why?
Well, because I was trying to pull it out and it was a little too hard for me. So I reduced the drag a bit so I could pull it out a little easier, not realizing it's going to affect
Fishing?
setting the hook. Great. Don't do that again, people at home. Don't do what I did.
Don't be a Hillary.
Don't be a Hillary. It was not. Ooh,
Fish on.
Hillary!
I got one. I felt it thump and whoo. Okay. Boy, these are fun.
Swing in right behind you here.
Woo.
Good job.
Yeah, that was fun. Wait, let that
That's your
sink
first
to the
No one was more
bottom.
surprised than her.
Yeah, she was like, whoa!
Bye,
Is that your first bass?
yeah.
Nice.
No, well, I guess I got a smallmouth up at Long Lake, but wow. This,
Other way, thumb in there like that. There
thumb
you
in
go.
here
And
like
pinch.
this, and
tight.
pinch,
There you
and
go.
then hold the belly,
Yep.
like you were saying. All right. Yeah, first largemouth. That was fun.
Hold on to that fish.
Nicely executed.
Here, that one took a little better.
Perfect side and mouth.
Good guide, Levi.
Thank you.
More Northwest fishing reports right after this.
There you go.
Got him?
Nice, Josh.
Oh, it's a good one. Pound not tip high, just keep reeling.
Keep pressure on him. Keep pressure on him. There we go.
Love it.
Choke the frog. That's how we want him to eat it, right there. Beauty.
So fun.
Nice.
Love it.
Shelby, does the heat impact bass fishing?
Seems like the bite'll slow compared to early morning, and the topwater's just not as effective as it is early in the morning.
So you recommend getting started early?
Yes. Yep. Daylight.
So you think we're gonna switch it up here and try some bank fishing, or?
Yeah, we'll try some bank fishing and maybe a little dock fishing as well.
All right, Danny.
Oh! Nice Potholes largemouth. Ah, hooked them good. Those offset hooks are sharp. Show the folks how to handle a bass.
Let me get us away from the edge here real quick.
Before we crash.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is guarding their gills right here. This is super hard. Their gills are sensitive, so you don't want to torque that jaw. Try to hold them, you know, especially the bigger fish. If you're gonna hold them, this fin right here, put your fingers underneath there and hold it out like that. Makes for a really good picture. There's no need to just hold it just like that. As far as the live well goes, I try to fill the live well as fast as possible. You know, during tournaments when we're keeping them, fill that live well as fast as possible. If you got a bucket, dump some water in there so they're just not sitting and flopping on a dry live well. I'm gonna get this fish back so we're not holding it out of the water for so long. Kind of help protect the slime coat. If you have to release a fish that's kind of stressed out, not doing so well, either put the boat in gear and hold her up in the current. You can do the same thing for walleye too. Hold it like that. They'll let you know when they're ready to go. See how it's kind of kicking its tail? Once it starts to pull away from me, there it goes. You know, you don't have to keep them cold. Keeping them calm is the biggest thing. Protecting that slime coat. You know, if you let them dry out because you're taking pictures and you drop them and they flop all over the boat, that's kind of rubbing that slime coat off. That's what helps protect them and their scales. So trying to take care of those fish, get them back in the water as fast as possible. You know, if they do have a hook deep and you got to sit there, you know, dip them in the water, work on getting that hook out, dip them in the water, and then get that hook out and revive them best you can. Don't just toss them back, make sure that they swim off on their own. Good job.
Thanks.
So when we guide, every now and then we do a full day, and I've kind of not perfected it, but I figured out, you know, when we're barbecuing on the boat for our guided trip, we beach the boat, and you know, the kids want to get out and walk around, so I hand them a rod. We got a wacky rig Cinco, depending on where you're at, we got frogs, and he's got a brush hog. And kind of funny, you spend all the money on a boat to cast at the shore, and the shore fishermen cast at us, but a lot of the fish are, you know, in 2 to 3 foot of water. We're in Frenchman's Wasteway here in front of the Potholes State Park. There's really good camping here, and you can walk this shoreline, and you got current coming out of here, and there's all kinds of fish to be caught. Catfish, perch, bass, bluegill. This mat along the shoreline, there's a lot of bass that hang out in here. Certain times of year, the walleye will even come in here, and so it's a great opportunity. You never know what you're gonna catch. So we'll just kind of walk down the shore making some casts and see what we can do.
Well, this is good for maybe the angler that doesn't have a boat, but they still want to get out and try some bass fishing. So
Correct.
the accessibility here at Potholes for shore fishing is something that would be important to these guys.
Yes, and it's not just the state park. So you've got Medicare Beach, which is part of the state park, but it is on the other side of the lake. And that's a rocky shore. You can camp there, there's tables. If you go further down, there's other beaches. And then along the dam or the highway, which is it's technically a dam, there's different pull-offs, and that riprap, I mean, it doesn't look like much, but there's a ton of fish to be caught there. Again, bass and walleye, the occasional catfish. You got Mardon Resort is another one. They've got really good bank fishing there, and the further east you head along the highway, you have Williams Boat Launch. There's fishing there, and M Road at times can even be productive for walleye and bass. So there's tons of bank opportunities too. Just you don't have to have a boat just to catch bass out here.
One of the interesting pieces for educating the public that I want to talk about is the retention of bass. I know it's legal to keep them, but a lot of people think that bass fishing is a catch and release fishery. Can you tell us a little bit, Danny, about the regulations around retaining bass?
So here in Washington, we have protective regulations for smallmouth and largemouth bass. So you can keep 10 smallmouth, only 1 over 14 inches, and largemouth you can only keep 5. and none of them can beat between 12 and 17 inches, and only one over 17 inches. And we have these protective regulations because there isn't a lot of large quality sized fish in these populations. So by protecting the larger ones, it allows the fishery to perpetuate itself on into the future.
So Shelby, are bass any good to eat?
I have never eaten a largemouth in my life. I grew up with catch and release, and we just never even thought about eating a largemouth. I have had the smallmouth. They're fine to eat, and there are lots of smallmouth, and keeping a few of them, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So.
Have you seen any impacts or any controversy around the bass fisheries and this catch and release rules?
The tournament and diehard bass fishermen absolutely think every bass, no matter what, should never be kept, and I don't think it's quite that stringent of a, not that militant, I guess, as some people are. And so, like I said, the smallmouth population, there are tons and tons of smallmouth in our waters, and taking some of those small fish out of there is probably good for the overall population.
Is that why those rules are put in place like that, Danny?
Yeah, that's why we have a higher limit on smallmouth, because these populations are much larger. And as Shelby said, you get into a place like Banks or the Snake River, the Columbia River, elsewhere, there's a lot of smallmouth to go out there and harvest. And from what I hear, they're a little better eating than largemouth.
And if people want to learn more about the current bass regulations on any waterway in Washington, they can visit.
Well, check out we still have a pamphlet that we put out every June, but we now have an application as well that's on your Android or your iPhone, and so you can just click a button and get the regulations for that water body.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Get out there and do some fishing.
But I hear it's Bass Week. Every week is Bass Week at Potholes Reservoir.
To go out there and harvest, and from what I hear, they're a little better eating than largemouth. So.
White and flaky, I hear.
Yep.
Just a rumor.
Yep.
My frog looks like it's injured.
Do they like wounded frogs?
Every week is Bass Week at Potholes Reservoir.
Yeah.
That's right.